evening, good evening, good evening. Normally I say good morning, so it's good evening. It is a rainy Wednesday evening on the outside. It is rainy, but it is something that we desperately need. We need the rain, and so we have to be grateful that showers is called showers of blessings. And I think at this point in time, St. Kitts, we're in a position where we need all the blessings that is possible, whether it comes wet or dry. We are desperately in need of blessings from the Almighty. This evening, you're in tune to FM 98.9 on your radio dial, and those of you who are in tune to on the social media, Facebook, on Win Media, that is on the internet, you are in tune with The Truth. The Truth is a newly program. It's a new program that is hosted here by me, Sandra Quilly Atherton. It is aired on Win FM 98.9. It's a program where we know right now that this is not the silly season anymore. We are in a season where we have to be very serious about the decisions that we are making. It's a decision that can affect not just us, but the future of our children. We know there's a saying that time discovers truth, and I think that we're in the time now where truth should be discovered, and people are supposed to be informed in order to make the decision of their lifetime. I firmly believe that, because we are seeing there are a lot of things that are banding around, there are a lot of propaganda, and I suppose we're in the feeling and the spirit of election, and it is the sad part about it. It's a time where people have to start to analyze situations for themselves and starting to look at how they are going to make their decisions. And it's not, we have moved out from the era of voting along party lines. We are voting along, based on the information that we are voting for a government that is more suitable for our country. And these are things that we have to seriously take into consideration. It's not the time, it's not the era when you used to say, my mother was a Labour, or my mother was a PAM, or my father voted CCM. This is not the period and time for it. The good thing about us is that we have had the people who are vying for leadership position. We have basically seen all of them at work. So we have the information, and therefore we have to see how we are going to make the best decision. In making the best decision, we need information. And this evening, truth must be told. We have heard some truth. And like it's to every story, there is your side, my side, and the truth. And we are hoping tonight we know for a fact tonight that we are going to hear the truth. It's something that people have been waiting for a very long time. It is something that is absolutely necessary. For me, I've been speaking to lots of people who think that they're confused because the information out there is conflicting, because they saw one thing, we are enjoying something else, and then the information is not barely making any sense. So we're going to put some of those problems and questions that people have to rest by giving them the information that is absolutely necessary. And the best person to do so, it is the person who's at the helm, the person who would have had the experience, and the person who has all of the information. I'm grateful tonight to have with me the Honorable Prime Minister, Dr. Timothy Harris. Dr. Harris, welcome to The Truth, and you are in the hot seat tonight because the truth must be told.
Thank you very much, Sandra. It's a special delight to be at Win FM and to have you hosting another program.
Yeah, it is really. I was looking forward to hosting this program because I like the truth. I know the truth. I've been exposed to lots of the truth. And so I always wanted the truth to come up, because I've had people come up to me and ask me, I am so confused. We are living in a time where things are happening so well. We have experienced 7 years of plenty. St. Kitts have never been this good for lots of people. We have people, of course, who are bitter. They are enjoying the benefits too, but yet still they fail to take off their bitter glasses and look through that lens of hatred, and they propel that kind of information out there. So propaganda, that kind of information out there. And so it confuses people who are experiencing a better St. Kitts. And I suppose that is one of the biggest problems. But, before we start looking at your truth, let us hear some of the truth that was told before. I'm going to have Trent starting with the number one truth that we would have had. And listen carefully, and you're going to hear this truth. And then you'll be able to make your own decision because you have the information.
Mr. Speaker, I say good afternoon to you. Mr. Speaker, I feel quite proud to stand today to lend my fullest support to this bill that is before the Honourable House. The truth be told that the Team Unity candidates, those for the PLP, those for the PAM, and those for the CCM, we did far better than we had ever done. And that sends its own message. It says that in the last 5 years, people were satisfied that we had managed the country in an effective way. With all the allegations that have come, with the constant barrage of accusations in the media, it sent a clear signal that people were satisfied with how the country was being managed. And for that, one must credit the Prime Minister, because leadership is not easy.
And that was one truth that we heard, and that came from the Premier of Nevis, the leader of the CCM party. That was one truth. We have a second truth. Truth comes in more than one form. So let's hear the second truth. Trent?
Every team must have a captain.
We are ranked #1 in good governance by the World Justice Project.
Because his leadership has brought us this far, and his leadership will take us for the next journey.
3 different political parties working together as one to bring growth and development to the people of St. Kitts and Nevis.
I think the relationship is the best that it has ever been between St. Kitts and Nevis.
That is not something we inherited. That is something achieved under this Team Unity administration.
And the federal government under the caring leadership of Dr. Timothy Harris.
A man who works 24/7.
We are the best that we have ever been in the history of these two islands.
And that is why I continue to say it's Harris again.
Any good team need a good leader, and we got the best leader St. Kitts and Nevis could have.
And I am here to say today that so long as I am here, so long as I am able to make a contribution, we, the members of Team Unity, shall never disappoint the people of...
Because we recognize the importance of Team Unity.
Unity has been good for the people of St. Kitts, and it has been good for the people of Nevis.
The best Prime Minister in the region. Election after election after election is Harris again, Harris again, Harris again, Harris again,
Harris again.
Harris again.
Dr. Harris, there you had it. Your colleagues who would have really, I mean, it's the truth has to be told. That's one thing about the truth, is that it comes out every time. So there you were the best. They wanted you to go Harris again and again. And I don't you have time on your side to really go the amount of time that they want to see you go. But let's really get down to the crux of the matter, because that has been one of the biggest problems. People are asking the questions, what went wrong? But let's start from the beginning. There's a clip that I wanted to hear, but I don't think I have it tonight. It's when you went into Parliament after recognizing that the country was moving in a direction that was going totally contrary to what your beliefs were. You have a history of caring for the ordinary people. We call us poor people. It's one of the terminologies that people use, people who are not as fortunate, the least fortunate. And you recognize at that time that the country was moving in a direction where the least fortunate were the ones who were going to be affected the most. You saw where we had the situation where the price of electricity went up, that would affect the ordinary man. Utilities went up, the price for utilities went up. We had a situation where VAT was imposed on us. We had a situation where we were going into the hands of the IMF, because we reached to the point that we were swapping our lands for that. And it was at that point when you recognize the importance of our patrimony. Swapping our lands for that was one of the biggest problems that you had. When you stood up in Parliament and you said you were willing to sacrifice your career, your future in politics, when you stood up in Parliament and said, if I perish, let me perish, but the truth must be told. I think that was one of the statements that you made, where you won the hearts and soul of every citizen of St. Kitts and Nevis, recognizing that this was an era where change was going to come. We finally found someone who was really interested in the good of the people, and somebody who was ready, willing, and able to sacrifice themselves to make sure that the citizens and residents of St. Kitts and Nevis had what they needed. You defended that. I want you to tell me in the beginning, let's go back. We're not going to go far back in the beginning. I want you to tell us, what did you meet? What did you inherit when you went there? We know about the crimes. We know St. Kitts was in a state where we thought it was irretrievable. But I want to hear from you, what did you really inherit? You saw it first and foremost.
Well, thank you. If we go back to 2015, 2015 we had perhaps the longest assault on democracy and good governance. For 26 months, we were in a state of limbo, where the government did everything it could to undermine the wishes of the people, rather than to go back to the people to seek an endorsement. And out of that, many things or many pieces of the state were falling apart. Clearly, the platform of law and order was under tremendous pressure and attack. And that clearly is evidenced by the fact that we had some of the worst times in terms of crime in our country. During the period before us, St. Kitts became known as the murder capital of the world. By 2011, we had homicides reaching as high as 35, 36 for a small country, and we were unable to bring back the crime rate to single digit or even into low digits. In fact, when the elections were being held in 2015, as if to remind us what was at stake, we had shooting an election day over at Connery.
Yeah.
And by the time we already had over 4 going and 8 or so homicides in the country. So we inherited a country which was at war, in which you had rival gang on top of the other incidences of crime which were taking place in the country, homicides being the most serious, most egregious of all crimes. They were at an all-time high and trending in a particular direction which made everyone scared. You couldn't go on the strip at peace. You couldn't be in your homes at peace. You couldn't be at church and feel safe. There was an absence of safety in the country in 2015. And that was part of the bad inheritance. But to have had the crime, which is so out of hand, a reflection of a failing state, you add to that the fact that St. Kitts and Nevis at that time too had one of the highest debt to GDP ratio. In fact, around 2010, there about the last term of the Douglas administration, we had become the second most indebted country in the world, with an indebtedness so high that it signaled troubled times. And it was that level of indebtedness, unprecedented for our country, that led to the insertion of the IMF to a structural adjustment program. That program brought a lot of economic pain. In fact, it could do nothing else, because that's what IMF program typically brought. Readjustment, getting you back in line, if you will. And how were we to do that? We had to introduce a VAT, 17%. At the time, it was the highest introductory rate of VAT within the region. We had to increase electricity, 85%. Dr. Douglas increased water 500%. and they began a program really of attrition of public servants. And even with those draconian measures, it was not enough. And then came the need for us to take lands, set them aside, as it were, poof away a portion of the debt on paper, so that the country could have a semblance of going somewhere in normalcy. And in the first instance, 1,200 acres of land were being passed from the public domain through the Vesting of Certain Lands Act, which involved the National Bank being passed with these 1,200 acres of land. And latterly the Valley lands became part of it. So a total of about 1,700 acres of land, public lands, were taken away from the public and, as it were, put in a special vehicle at which price they could not be afforded by the ordinary people. And that was to deal with some $775 million of indebtedness. So that was a significant development in the country. And when these lands were being determined, there was little consultation with us then, even as MP. And it was as a consequence of that here it was in your constituencies, persons were looking for land, for housing, for agriculture, for their farms, for sporting facilities. You were saying no lands were available, and yet you were to learn on the day in which the bill were being passed that over 1,200 acres of land were being taken from all constituencies except in the St. Paul's, St. Christopher VI constituency. And that was a wake-up call that the patrimony of the people of St. Kitts and Nevis could not be dealt with in such a contemptuous way, that the patrimony of the people of St. Kitts and Nevis were fought for. Indeed, it took two administrations to deal with the acquisition of the land. And so there was a lot of history and a lot of our future which were being captured in the land for debt swap arrangement. We did not have a sufficient public engagement on it. So typically, in a nutshell, we had an economy that was basically in ruins. We had the crime situation which was out of hand, and you had a government that had lost faith in the democratic process. Those were the typical pillars that undergird our response to the 2015 election, bringing back good governance agenda and bringing, as it were, a better future for all the people of St. Kitts and Nevis.
And that is something that you have achieved under your leadership. I mean, your other MPs would have made that statement that it is the best that St. Kitts and Nevis would have ever experienced. And I can say that, and I suppose the citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis can say that. I remember the days when you were afraid to go out because people fail to realize that crime for some people, criminal activities is their job. That happens when you have an economy that is seriously failing. These people have to, and you have to live. And so they picked up these criminal activities, and, it affects us. But now, a lot of people, and I'm glad that you went back to that, because there are a lot of young people who would not have they were too young to understand what was happening. But they're old enough now. Could you imagine? They were 11 years old. So they knew it was happening, but they don't have a good understanding, of what was happening. And now they're ready to vote in this election. They don't have an understanding of what they're voting for and what they should not be going back to. And that is one of the reasons why we want to hear. I mean, people might think, oh, you're saying it again. But people, sometimes you have to remind them of the past so that we won't go back to that situation again. I mean, those are some of the biggest problems that we were having. Now we recognize that some of the programs that you would have put in, we see where our economy, is at its best. We could have given double salaries, 4, 5 double salaries under your watch. We increase in civil servants' wages, salaries. We have seen, where you would reduce. I've never seen that where a government would have been reducing taxes during the time of the pandemic that we went through. Taxes were reduced. The businesses, they benefited big time from a situation like this. In times like these, government tend to go up because the economy is failing. You don't have, the tourism sector was down, and there was no source basically of income. Would normally be taxation. We saw that what Douglas did under his administration, where he increased taxation, introduced VAT, because the situation was we had a failing economy. And when we saw what you did, people, and I suppose that is one of the reasons why your MP would have said you, under your watch, under your leadership, and they emphasize the fact that you would have done more than yeoman service for us, the ordinary citizens of St. Kitts and Nevis. So we saw that. We understood, or we are now understanding what the problem was. I mean, that is where you stepped out and said, if I perish, let me perish. The truth must be told. And that is where you got that, those people, that character, that you're demon, you're villain, because of the hatred, because you turn and move away from a situation that was affecting us, the ordinary people. I want to ask you, Dr. Harris, after seeing all that, what you went through, what would you say is one of your greatest achievements so far as being the leader of St. Kitts and Nevis?
I would say the greatest achievement would have been to turn around almost a 360 degrees the situation that we inherited, and to have done so in a very short window of time.
Yep.
Because you fast track from 2015 to, say, 2020. By the time St. Kitts and Nevis had brought its debt under control. And so by 2020, St. Kitts and Nevis, in fact, by 2018, had reduced the debt to GDP ratio under 60%. The significance of this is that 60% is the international benchmark, the best practice that one should attempt to achieve. The central bank, ECCB, had set 2030 as the time for member states to arrive there, having regard to where they were. Less than 12 years in advance of that date, St. Kitts and Nevis was the first country to have achieved that milestone. And while we were able to do it, we paid off the IMF the debt which we inherited, $117 million inherited from the former administration. How were we able to do that? We paid down substantial sums to redeem lands, restore lands formerly taken from us back into the public domain so that our people can get land for housing. We could build a brand new community center, for example, in Atlas Village, because we redeemed that land. Housing expansion could have taken place. We could now speak about the expansion of housing in Brighton and Hermitage, etc., because land were redeemed, bought back, paid for. In fact, we have redeemed over 800 acres of land from the land for debt swap, and we have paid somewhere in the region of about $400 million to redeem that land. So that has been a significant investment. But while we were able to do that, we still kept the economy buoyant. So an economy which in NHS was failing had now become the shining example within the region. That to me is a major, major success story. The turnaround in the fiscal health of the country, and of course buying back a major asset that is our land, so limited it is, and making it available for our people. But we saw several other things that were part of that, and perhaps one of the most dramatic was that we made our streets safe again.
Yep.
The administration, the Douglas administration, had given up on crime. He himself said he wasn't disturbed, he wasn't concerned when people were talking about crime, as he wasn't disturbed about debt. National debt, you know what he said?
Yeah.
crime, when you talk about that, that was like water on the back of the duck, he said. So he had no concern about that. We took bold initiatives. We invested in the national security infrastructure. We had a budget going doubling what was there when we came in. We took the national security budget to about $100 million. We began renovating the police stations all over, providing a fleet of vehicles to the Defense Force, doing renovation here and there, adding new facilities to ensure the comfort and to restore the morale. We increased risk pay. We did so many things. We brought in experts to reorganize the police force, develop new directorates for law and order, and begin a program of training, consistent training over the last 7 years. Never before had such a pathway been followed. So when I look at the big stories, the big accomplishment, it is the strength of St. Kitts and Nevis fiscally, which allowed us to do what no other government in the region had been able to do, to provide a double salary 4 years in a row. And even coming out of the shadow of COVID-19, we were able last year to introduce or to surprise our people with a double salary. And then to top it off, this year, we provided a 10% increase. You can't tell the last that has happened here. 10%, where a stroke of a pen, was being paid. And not only was being paid in May, but we were going back retroactively. And we did that without borrowing 1 cent. And that, again, is an indication of where we are. In fact, the IMF in its report pointed to the fact that St. Kitts and Nevis, when we entered the pandemic, we had the largest fiscal buffers in the hemisphere. In other words, we were doing better than any country, including America, if you will, in relation to our economic and fiscal management. So to me, those are significant highlights. And part of the reality is that money was in people's pockets. Money was there. People could have enjoyed their Christmas, enjoy any day, in fact, for that matter. Importantly, as part of the robustness of the economy, the Social Security record would show that we had the largest number of persons contributing to the scheme, over 30,000 contributors. And the wages and salaries in the country reach a historic proportion around 2018-2019, when over $1 billion were pumped in the economy as wages and salaries. These are significant historic developments in St. Kitts and Nevis, and I am happy to have been the leader under which these successes were accomplished.
You know, and I'm glad that you can talk, but you're talking high level. Your language is for some people. The ordinary man doesn't understand that. The ordinary man understands $500 that has been added to the monies that they were bringing. It was a struggle, and I suppose certain people would not understand the importance and how much $500 would have meant to the ordinary man. I know there's a young girl who she was begging to get onto the PAP program because she felt like the PAP would have helped her. When she told me the things that she could have achieved with PAP, I couldn't believe $500 make such a big difference. We overlook sometimes the importance because to some of us, to some people, it's just $500. But we have seen the number of people on PAP. People are ridiculing the program and saying that number of people on PAP shows that the economy is not doing what it's supposed to do. Jobs are not made readily available, but they can't seem to understand it is just over a 7-year period.
Well, far from it. The fact that we could have PAP point to the strength of the economy.
Exactly.
Because only a strong economy can sustain PAP. That is how you preserve PAP. In fact, all the social safety nets can only remain and be sustained if the economy is strong, so that you have the resources to be able to pay for them. And so the PAP came around 2018, and the PAP was a godsend.
Yeah.
Because the PAP helped so many people to reach closer to what one may consider a livable wage. It was a notion that we introduced, that we recognize that you have the working poor. And all over the world, they are the working poor. Yes, you're at work, but you are not earning enough to be able to meet some of the basic needs of the family. And the PAP was intended to assist in that regard, to provide a top-up of $500 a month, a substantial amount. $125 per week is significant.
It is.
Significant now, significant then. And so that was what we were attempting to do. But beyond the enhancement or the improvement in the quality of life of people was a sense that people now had a greater sense of dignity. Imagine the elderly woman who has nothing, no pension, nothing.
Wow.
Who are hitherto dependent 100% on the favor and conscience of a child, a grandchild maybe, now has her own money, that she could go and get her medication, that she could buy her food for today, and do all those other things that make life worthy. That $500 for a household could have gone to pay their rent in part or in whole. It could have gone to pay their electricity, their water bill, their cable bill. So it was and still remains a significant part of our addressing not just poverty in the country, but addressing the question of a reasonable income flowing to persons within the country of St. Kitts and Nevis. And so the PAP program, again, is significant. We see how wonderful it is, especially in the context of COVID-19. Yeah. It became a lifesaver for many who were displaced, who had nothing at all. So when we hear people criticizing the PAP, when we hear the leader of the Labour Party, Dr. Jus, say that it was a sad day when we introduced PAP, we understand that we cannot trust them or their policies to sustain the PAP. When we hear them talk about mending the PAP, you say, mend what? What does that mean? Who are you going to deprive of it? Who? House are you going to enter into to see what refrigerator they have, whether they have trays, to make determination and politicize the program? We introduced a single criterion. The criterion was that the household income must be less than $3,000 a month. There is no need for no inspector. People have an application form. It is dealt with transparently, and it is being processed. No other party will sustain and improve the PAP as the PLP would. And we have made the commitment that come September, yes, we will reform the PAP. There is need always to revisit, to learn from the experience. But most importantly for the beneficiaries is that they are going to have an enhanced PAP, and substantial increase in the PAP will be provided to them.
Yeah, but you take into consideration, you see what is happening now. The cost of fuel is sky high. Because of that, food stuff, electricity, it's high. And so people do not understand the struggles of the ordinary young mother who has 3 children and have work on a minimum wage and still having to feed those children, still having to pay rent. It is a struggle. So PAP for me is a godsend.
It is a godsend, and the thousands of persons who are on it understand that this is critically important. And more people, as we deal with the after effects of COVID-19, I recognize and I'm saying, if only I could get this $500 extra, what a significant difference it will make in my life, in my children's life. So those who are attempting to demean it are insulting the intelligence of thousands of people who rely upon it. And that is why we say the people can only trust the People's Labour Party, the leadership of Dr. Timothy Harris, to continue and increase the PAP, and therefore, by extension, improve the quality of their lives by putting more money in their pocket.
I like the fact that you said trust, because I think this election basically is based on trust. It was one of the issues that we had where trust was not happening. Trust was one of the biggest problem, and so that is one of the reasons why we are basically going back to the poll. So, Dr. Harris, trust being a factor, I'm going to ask, how do we know that we can trust PLP? How do we know that we shouldn't trust CCM? And how do we know that we shouldn't trust the Labour Party when they all come out with, I'm still waiting for the message. Okay, one of the messages to keep the promises. People are asking what promise should be kept. So the question again, it comes on, it is trust.
Well, it's a question of trust. Trust the People's Labour Party to deliver a secure future for the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. And the trust is not to be taken lightly. The trust is being put based on the track record of performance and the leadership of Dr. Timothy Harris over the last 7 years. I have gone where other leaders failed to go.
Definitely.
That is why crime is under control. That is why we could walk from Newtown into McKnight without looking back.
Wow.
Because our streets are safe again. That is why we can move from Baker's Corner and go into Taylor's and even walk to Monkey Hill again, because thank God Almighty, as a result of the impressive array of interventions, not just the peace program, not just the build-out of the Explorer Club, but the significant investment in crime fighting and the collaboration across the security forces and the enhanced quality of life and the hope that we provided to people, that there were opportunities for second chance, have made St. Kitts and Nevis one of the safest places to live. So you can trust us when we say we will secure the future. There is no secure future unless there is safety a part of it. And which leader has delivered most? Dr. Timothy Harris.
True.
In that.
It's a fact.
There can be no secure future unless we can grow the economy. And under my watch, the economy has grown. The fiscal reserve we have come as a consequence of that. And what we have done each time is that we have always invested back in the people, whether it is in the most extensive support to persons in university programs, whether it is in the build-out of the PAP program, which now is providing additional support to over 5,000 people in St. Kitts and Nevis, whether it is the investment in the peace, in the Second Chance program, taking people away from the waste of life and opportunity, taking them away from a pathway of crime to an alternative path which says you can now become your own businessman. You can now live as a responsible father. Imagine even our prisons. We are having persons getting 18, 20, 12 subjects.
I am so
We
impressed.
have persons in our prison being supported to pursue degrees.
Wow.
From within the walls of 1840, that is happening under the watch of Prime Minister Harris. Because we are facilitating that when people leave our system, they are on the path of rehabilitation. They are on the path of becoming a better quality person. And the society must give them that opportunity to again become the best that they can be. Any one of us could have been on the path to Damascus. And then, like Saul, we made that about turn to a new path. How many times should we forgive them? Is it 7 or 70 times 7? And those are some of the fundamental things. When we appreciate that God didn't make any junk, when we appreciate that some of our young people had gone astray because of failure of some of the agencies of the society. Sometimes it's the family, sometimes it's a school, sometimes it is our church, sometimes it's our education system. We are all culpable, and we have an opportunity to redeem. And under my watch, that redemption song has been a powerful one of liberation. When you look to see how persons have transformed their lives in cities and country, they are now in rental business, they are now into farming, they are now serving their society, their communities, their country. And they have in fact, on a new path, you feel a sense of satisfaction about the peace and all that we have done for crime fighting. When a mother met me from Newtown and she says, Dr. Harris, continue to do what you're doing. She relayed the trauma she experienced, and still at the point when she was telling me the story, it was impacting her. Wow. What was motivating her was that no other mother should have to go through the trauma that she had experienced from having lost her son to gang-related warfare in our country. So we have a powerful story to tell, and we must be proud to tell it. Is the peace a perfect program? No, there is no perfect program in St. Kitts and Nevis. None. And that is why we say we will improve it, we will reform it, but it has a continuing role to play in the socio-economic development of St. Kitts and Nevis, in stabilizing our society and allow our people to realize their potential in an atmosphere of calm, of peace, and safety and tranquility.
We had said before, and everybody, that was one of the things about getting the short-term, medium-term, and long-term solution to the crime that we were having, criminal activities that we're having. We see that the young people appreciate it, though, because you see, these are the people who are following PLP, because PLP has given them a chance. They understood, PLP is a party that understood the problems and the hardships of the young people. And these programs have given them that second chance. And when you listen, you talk about the mother, but when you listen to the young man who was living on who was on a journey where crime was his job, criminal activities was his job. Mm-hmm. And he, it's something that he wanted to change, but he didn't have a way of changing it. These are stories that you listen to from young people telling their sides of the story. And so you learn more to appreciate these programs that your leadership, on the government, on your leadership would have brought forward that would help and the people who were involved, and not only the people, but for us.
All of us benefit from peace. You're a businesswoman. Yep. Your business will flourish in an atmosphere of safety and peace. The businesses on the strip that had to close because there were no customers past 6 o'clock. At one point under the Douglas administration, they understand what is happening. Doctors at the JNF hospital and nurses who had to be called out an emergency to deal with those who are wounded, they appreciate the transformation of law and order and the peace and security which now prevail. They were living in fear. Even at the hospital, they were unsafe because the criminals were daring to go there to finish off that which they had started. Doctors scared, but going against incredible odds to undertake their duty to care and to save life, and so are nurses. We had to do significant investment at the hospital to assist in maintaining an atmosphere of calm and an atmosphere conducive to the provision of healthcare services. So we have come a very, very long way in terms of the successes in law and order and making our streets safe again. To maintain that, the people can trust and have confidence that a Harris-led administration will consolidate the gains we have made.
And that is one of the things, lest we forget history. That's one of the things about our history. Once we forget our history, we doomed to do the same thing again. Yes. We're looking forward to an election in the next few days. I'm not even going to say weeks because the next time is really on us. We're looking at a campaign that you're running. Mm-hmm. What I want to find out from you is basically Are you ready? Are you now ready? Is your team ready? Do you think you have the most appropriate team to go into this campaign and be successful?
I think we have a high-quality team, the best team to take St. Kitts and Nevis forward. And persons are quite impressed how quickly we were able to put a team together so that the People's Labour Party is now the most dynamic, the most inclusive, and the most successful political party in St. Kitts and Nevis. In fact, so successful it was that some of the colleagues got scared about the growth of the PLP. Imagine in a motion of no confidence, for example, the date to put in that one should contain the growth of the People's Labour Party. What? You know what I mean? That is such an indictment about the quality of the leadership elsewhere when they were going to break up a government. And one of the reasons was that one of the parties was too attractive to the electorate. So we are ready. We have a team, 8 candidates, well suited, with track record of service in their community, track record of putting the interests of others above themselves, track record of competence in their chosen field. We have 2 business leaders, for example, Stasio Williams, one of the most innovative entrepreneurs in St. Kitts and Nevis and in the region. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's amazing what he was able to do
I can tell you.
in terms of ICTs and using that and putting people to work, etc., etc. We have Talbot Bass, who started with 1 bus, now has 16, in fact, has the largest fleet of public transport available in St. Kitts and Nevis. These are persons who, by their own initiative and God-given talent and favor, have been able to make a success of their own lives, and therefore are going to be important in helping others to become success stories and to bring a business-savvy mindset to the discussions in the cabinet as they relate to persons wanting to do business, needing the services of the government, and needing the support of the government. We have a specialist in ICT in the Honorable Akila Byron Nisbet, the champion for the people in Number 3. God bless her. And may the people of Number 3 continue to repose their confidence in her, for she has accomplished so much in the short of 2 years as their representative. Land distribution, housing, jobs, accessibility, etc., that she must be elected again, and we need her in the cabinet. We have Jacqueline Bryan, well known in media. In fact, she had her own stint at WIN Radio as one of their media personality and has spread her wings in the public sector, became a household name and leadership matters. She's a leader in her own right. She's a woman with a big heart, lots of love and joy, deeply connected in our community, a friend of women and single women and the elderly who have been out there helping people. We have people who hail from the community, live in communities, understand the dynamics, and are not unwilling. In fact, they are very willing to serve the people at the higher level. We have public servants in Kendall Liebert, in Dr. Mark Williams, who are coming with a background of service. So we have perhaps a diversified team, competent people, experienced people, industrious people, capable of adding value to governance and government in St. Kitts and Nevis. And my team will be supported by some of the best persons drawn from public and private sector who will be working to ensure that the government can move forward with its policies and program in an efficient and effective way that brings results for the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. So we are ready. We have a team. We have policies and programs. We have begun to enumerate some of them. A big one, for example, we have said that the promise made by Douglas since 2007 to the so-called non-establishment workers that they would become pensionable, and which he never followed through on. The People's Labour Party, we took a decision, I think 2 cabinets ago, that those persons who had been denied since 2012 May, we will make it right for them. And those who are qualified would become pensionable and henceforth receive a pension for the rest of their life.
Wow.
This is an amazing development which will affect thousands of former government employees, many of them who left their work crying because they verily believe that they ought to be treated equally to all employees of government. They believe, having given 30, 40, some of them, years of service to the government, that Dr. Douglas did them an injustice when he failed to operationalize the new Pension Act that would have allowed them to go home with some sense of security in the advanced portion of their lives. We are about securing the future. And in securing the future of St. Kitts and Nevis, we have to secure the people. And so that is why we have attended to that. And we have started that process. In another week or so, we shall begin receiving applications from persons who are qualified so that we can begin the processing of their pensionable benefits. And so this will be a big, big day for those who have worked and labored in the public service, but went home basically dejected and in an inferior conditions of living. And similarly, we made the commitment to the step workers, and we say come September, everyone on the STEP program will be made permanent. What does that mean? You can now get a job letter. You can now send off to the U.S. Embassy in Barbados to get your visa, or to the Canadian Embassy. Hitherto, the STEP letters were, as it were, discarded because persons, employers, and institutions saw them as basically being in temporary work setting. We have now taken on the huge task of making them a permanent part of the government workforce. So they now have job security. So your pension is made secure when you re-elect a People's Labour Party. Job security is enhanced for the step workers when you elect a PLP administration. So again, you see how our team meshes with what we have been able to do in the past. And we then can speak confidently, because what we are doing for the step workers, Douglas introduced the PEP program, did nothing. We are now stepping it up. So with whom would you have confidence? We have already, in the first phase of the implementation, made permanent over 600 plus government employees hitherto on the STEP program. We will do it for the remainder by September 1st. So again, when we talk about trust, it's a track record. It has that we are inspired to do these things because we believe in them and we know that they will enhance the secure future which our people deserve.
And that is one of the reasons why I can't seem to understand why citizens and residents of St. Kitts and Nevis, we see what we have. You're not saying what you are going to do. You're saying what you have done. You are leaving, you are looking at somebody who's coming again with promises, because that's what we've been having over the years. We have found a party, a government, who do not just deal with promises, but make well on their promises. You talk about the fact that people would have gone home. I always find it was an injustice that you would have given 30 years of your life to an institution. You go home empty-handed, and that is one of the reasons why you have to introduce programs like PAP. When you can do this and people can get a pension, then you know you're going to reduce the number of people who are so dependent on PAP. It shows, and when your economy is booming, then you have different things that can make the adjustment, and PAP would serve the people who it was really intended for. I see people ridiculing the STEP program, having a misunderstanding of STEP. I remember a young person made a statement about, yes, when you come back from studying, which is true, there are lots of people who are sitting home waiting for a permanent job. Mm-hmm. After 2 years, you have a student loan that you have to pay. If you can get onto the STEP program, understanding that STEP is not just minimum wage, they take into consideration your qualification and they pay you accordingly. You're on the job.
According to your qualification.
Exactly.
In fact, STEP really skills training empowerment program.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
So there's a training component involved in the STEP program. It is really to provide for you some period of apprenticeship so that you can learn, develop the skills, have an experience that you could then go on either within that institution or into another and say, listen, I've had 2 years working in this particular company. Yes, on the skills training empowerment program, but this is what I now can do. My skills have improved.
Yeah.
I can give you more value. So there is nothing demeaning about the STEP program. And it is unfortunate that some will think about it that way. When you empower people, when you give people better values, that is good for the country. When you take people from being idle to one where they can be productive, that is good for the country. Does the skills training program need improvement? Yes, every day we are working hard to do that. We have Emil Green, who is someone trained in workforce values and ethics and evaluation processes, that is leading that particular program. They have done several training sessions, both at the level of soft skills and the level of having people even at AVEC and other institutions of learning being supported by the STEP program. And that is wonderful.
You see, people don't have a good understanding. When you hear people going to call you and beg to be placed on STEP, beg to be placed on the PAP program, these are people who are experiencing the hardship. The people who are criticizing it are people who are in position where they're well paid. You're a lawyer, you're a doctor, you're a pensioner, you're a person who would have been through the service and now home on retirement.
But this STEP had a lawyer on it in Nevis.
Yes, but this
you understand?
What it provides.
So again, it provided an opportunity for someone who had come back from university to have been afforded the opportunity to learn her trade. Mm-hmm. And for years, that lawyer was being paid on the STEP program. We have people who have come back with degrees in accounting, in management, etc. Their employers would not have taken them on had it not been for STEP.
Exactly.
And they have moved from there now to become part of the permanent establishment. Because through that period of training, people have been able to evaluate them and to see that they are ready and assess their contribution. So these are wonderful developments that the program has and perhaps must showcase more.
Yeah, because when you look at the situation where before you go to a job for the first time, you were given 3 months probation. You had to prove yourself within those 3 months. If you didn't prove yourself within those 3 months, then you were out. Sometimes 3 months is just not enough. But if you go in on a PEP program or the STEP program, then you get enough time to prove yourself. And then the employer can look at you and say, oh, you know what, you can be an asset to the company, and they take you off a STEP and employ you permanently. But we have had to go through that 3 months program.
We have persons, for example, working in the customs department at RAMS. They were part of the STEP program at our customs and excise department.
Wow.
They became so good at their job that private sector entities went and, as it were, provided them a better offer.
Wow.
And that is what we wish. That is good for the country. Again, it's giving people their first start, and those opportunities ought not to be minimized. And certainly over time, we are open to new ideas and doing things better. And as we move forward, we will do more and improve the STEP program so that it can be even more efficient and deliver even more substantial and substantive results for the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. So we are proud of all of these things. We upgraded PEP to become STEP, and we have seen a lot of good that has been done by these programs. I mean, even the people, once they have good supervision, they can do good work. They can help harness a lot of good things, assist us with clearing derelict buildings, abandoned buildings, so that they could not become safe havens from which crime is being conducted. That is important for any society. Environment now is a big thing. Keeping our country clean and safe are critically important. These are critically important things for our advancement. So we have much about which we can be proud, and we have to become more a people who count our blessings and give God thanks for simple things and great things, and it will be surprise us how much we are accomplishing.
Before we go to the lines, because we're going to open the line, there's an area that I really want to look at, because sometimes for us, we look at what is happening on the local scene. We only feel the pressure when it's on us. But we don't anticipate well. We are not in touch or in tune with what's happening on the international scene. We see there is a Cold War building up there in Ukraine. We hear about recessions that is right upon us. We look at the prices, the increased prices in gasoline. We see that our food prices have been affected tremendously. And so I'm going to ask you, what basically challenges does this present to the next person or to you? Because I think I know you're going to be the person who's going to sit in that seat. What challenges does these problems that you have out there is going to pose to the person as Prime Minister? Well,
the global picture is one of uncertainty, and one in which there have been serious predictions that we could well step into a deep recession. This, of course, will be very unfortunate, because COVID-19 really did much to destabilize the world globally and bring intense pressure upon households and upon economies. And many countries are not yet out of the woods. And just as we thought we would be moving out of the shadow of COVID-19, we have the Ukraine-Russian war. And the consequence of that has been, again, it brought greater uncertainty, it brought challenges for food security, it certainly led to an upsurge in global prices for energy products, for agricultural products. Ukraine is a food basket, or was hitherto for Europe. Russia is well known to be one of the largest producers of agricultural products, both inputs and other things that help keep the farms going. And so we have a challenge to food security. We have escalating prices. In other words, there's a worsening of the climate in which we are going to operate. And that climate is going to require tested leadership. Yeah. We wouldn't have time for lazy leadership, certainly, and we will not have time for unproductive and inexperienced leadership. There will not be time for that. In
Learning
fact,
on the
already
job.
there is no time. So we need a leader who understands the dynamics of the marketplace. We need a leader who is trusted to bring policy measures that would help those who are vulnerable. And we have that. We were just talking about PAP, we were talking about peace, we were talking about STEP program, and how these were critical part of our social safety net that stabilize our country and put people on the right footing. My government has responded to some of these pressures, and we certainly have to do more. We, for example, extended the income support program, providing $1,000 a month for households that basically have been displaced as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic and have not yet found jobs. We introduced a support for those families with disabilities. I mean, these are first-time unprecedented levels of support that we have brought and extended them in the wake of what was happening globally. But additionally, we again reduce duties and a cross-section of products. We again extended the program of the 500 pounds barrel that you can bring in without duty to again ease and cushion the impact of the raging cost of living upon families and upon their lives and their livelihoods. Importantly, in answer to the fuel problem, we overturned the policy that was implemented by the former deputy prime minister and leader of PAM. We have hundreds of people in our cities and in our towns. They were having their electricity cut. The shame of that, the inconvenience for the children, for the elderly, who in the period post-COVID-19, or as we move out of the shadow of COVID-19, their incomes were not at the level which they were prior to the COVID-19 pandemic when it came in March 2020. And we say that is not a compassionate response. So we brought an end to the disconnection program. And we also waived the cost of reconnection. We advised the lawyers who had a number of people, as it were, their claims or the bills in their office, charging them significant sums while they were clearing their debt. We say all these hardship had to come to an end. And we brought a compassionate response because we recognize that these are still very challenging times, and a responsible government, a government that is fit for purpose, has to be sensitive to the needs of the people, particularly the poor, the elderly, and our young people. And so we have taken all of those measures and more. We reduced the excise tax that the government would collect on fuel. And so we reduced that, I think, by more than 50%. Again, to help moderate the price of fuel. But yet, with all the uncertainty and the tensions in the marketplace, we are still seeing that that is problematic. And so the government, again, will bring new measures in place in the next couple of weeks if that situation is not moderated at a satisfactory level to bring relief. And so that is part of the challenge, making the right decisions at the right time to assist people. And in the context of what is happening globally, a tested and experienced leader like myself can, day after being sworn in, proceed with a government that will get the job done for the people. And importantly, because when we speak about lazy leadership, there is several connotations to it. It is that we need an industrious team of people prepared to work. Not one that will abandon the country at some of its most difficult times. Not one that will boycott the cabinet functioning, because it is the heart, the fulcrum of the Westminster model that we practice. And so when people can't persevere to do the right thing, they can't be trusted to lead the country in these challenging times of not only a pandemic, it's still with us, it has not yet gone, but in the context of all that is happening globally, the uncertainty, the hike in prices, we need people who are ready to serve, committed to serve, competent to serve, and with a track record of service. And some of the contenders to the throne, they are either too experienced, untried, unproven, and therefore unfit for the job.
We see that, and this is one of the reasons why I said this is not the silly season. This is a season where we have been exposed to all of this information, and so we have to sit down and work the maths out. You know what? It's sad though. I saw a lady. It's on social media where she's dancing, "Me and my neighbor voting for Labour," and then she's saying, "Oh, you all could go with the $500. It is sad when people can put people in positions like that. A person who I know is desperately in need of the $500, but because of the influence of people, other people, they will make those kind of silly statements. And you said it earlier.
Well, I think that is in part due to the recklessness and the lack of wisdom of some leaders. Because when the leader she's supporting, say, for example, words that mean that he will end the PAP, she thinks that it is no use.
That is the whole thing.
And they've come up with fancy words, we will mend it. What does mend mean?
It's not
in the context of the PAP program. And they have never before supported it. They said it was a sad day when we are helping poor people to overcome the indignity and the challenge of their situation. A sad day, that is what Terence just said. So we cannot have confidence in them, and we cannot support their leadership because it will be a mistake for the country.
You know, I always look at politics this way, and I've said it. If I was to become a politician or into that arena, and I look at what the strength of the economy that we have at this point in time, I would not be contesting as the opposition. I would want to be a part of, because if we really and truly wants to help poor people, why are you going to change a system that is geared towards helping poor people who that is working, not one that is just geared, but one that is working? People are benefiting from it. Why would you want to now come and change it without having an alternative? Because there are no alternatives. You hear them talk about the fact that PAP is an insult, but what is the alternative to PAP? You hear them talk about STEP. STEP is not doing what it's supposed to do. What is the alternative to STEP? We see the peace program, they think that it's been abused. What is the alternative? And that is the question that you're asking. What is the alternative to, or what are the alternatives to these programs that are working that you want to now stop because you think it's a waste of the funds or the monies that is in the treasury? How can you make statements like that when you are going out and asking poor people to support you? At the end of the day, you're going to be getting the salary.
Well, let's be clear, these programs benefit not only the poor, but the rich, because they provide constructive avenues of engagement for our people. They take them to a path of progress, and therefore they are less likely to go out committing crimes, endangering people, begrudging people their success. In fact, they want to become successful people. And so these programs really benefit all in society. In some respect, it's like education. Education is costly, but try ignorance. The peace program may be expensive and needs reform, and we are committed to do that. But do you prefer to have crime and the deaths we used to have so often? And the answer is no. We can't go back to Douglas era with that.
No.
So that is where the option is. We have a clear choice. We continue to have a secure and improved future under the leadership of Dr. Timothy Harris as the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis, or we go back to a past which we rejected because it had failed us. The high debt, the IMF involvement. We had a PEP program with over 4,000 and trained less than 40 people. That was what they had as their model.
Wow.
We had the SAFE program, where they were giving away $50,000 willy-nilly to buy votes. Did they have a problem with it? But now we have constructively organized program being run by professionals, keeping St. Kitts and Nevis safe and secure and advancing the quality of life of our people. And they conveniently criticize it. They are not fit for leadership.
Well, you know what is the good thing about it? That's the reason why I mentioned what the lady said, because it shows the program that it gives to anybody. It doesn't matter which party you support. Because when I listened to her say that, I'm like, wow, it means that it doesn't matter of your party affiliations. You, as long as you're qualified for the program, you are on the program. And that for me said a whole lot, because we know in the past it was who you supported were the ones who were benefiting. And you hear people use the term that you were in the wilderness because of the fact that you were not supporting this party, you felt that all of the benefits were only geared towards a certain.
Well, we have shown, and I have shown as a leader of the country, that I have the capacity to bring diverse people with different views and philosophies to work together. The clips that you played before indicated what my colleagues then said. It was the best, and everyone knows that the last 7 years have been the best for St. Kitts and Nevis. We continue even as we speak to have a government that is broad, that is reflective, that we can cross the political boundaries. The Deputy Prime Minister in my administration is still the Deputy Leader of PAM in the Honourable Jean Hamilton. He has received an enhanced position. He is comfortable, fulfilling and delivering for the people of Number 8 and the country at large. The Attorney General comes from a PAM background in the Honourable Vincent Byron. He is a key provider of legal advice and support in a welcoming environment. Senator Wendy Phipps. So we are broad-based. You look at our civil service at the high echelons. You have Labour, you have PAM, you have PLP. Because I understand and I appreciate, and the Bible not wrong on it, that unity is essential.
Strength.
How pleasant it is for brethren to dwell together in unity. And when we are dwelling and we can harness the talents of all our people, we get best results for the country. And that is why St. Kitts and Nevis has been so successful, because we have harnessed so the PAM voter can feel secure voting for the People's Labour Party government, because you have seen how a government led by Dr. Timothy Harris operates. No victimization.
Wow.
Look at all the boards. You have more PAM than Labour people and them under a Harris-led administration. We are allowing our people to achieve their fullest potential, realize their dream, contribute constructively to our country. That is why our party says, and we clearly have demonstrated it, the People's Labour Party welcomes all. That is why Ambassador Sidney Osborne could, last week, Friday I think it was, come on the podium to encourage other PAM supporters and other Labour supporters to give support to the People's Labour Party candidate in West Bastille and everywhere, because we need a strong People's Labour Party government so that we do not have a coalition of convenience where people at any point in time would divorce themselves from their commitment to the people for their own personal aggrandizement. Because one man wants to be prime minister and one man wants to put their hand on the treasury and they cannot manage anything. And they say, well, if we can't have these demands,
mash it up.
Then we will mash it up, because the people do not matter for them.
It's true.
The people now have the opportunity to vote for the leader who can bring people together and will ensure there is no victimization. Because that is critical part. If we were to put back Douglas there, we will have a clean sweep of the public service
True.
and the public sector. We will go back to high debt, high crime. And the state from which we have left, we will return to there and find it even worse than it was when we inherited it in 2015. So there's one choice really for this upcoming election. It's the People's Labour Party. I spoke to our team. I enumerated some of our policy initiatives, and more will be enumerated during the course of the campaign. So we have the team, we have the policies, we have the plans, and we have a track record of performance and sterling leadership. You heard it. It has been the best for Nevis, with over $500 million of financial support being provided. Never before had it been so good.
How can it
and
be?
Yet it was so good that persons in an act of desperation, megalomania, power hungriness, determined that they will thwart the wishes of the people. I said to the people, the People's Labour Party believe in unity.
Yeah.
We believe in it. We believe in our people working together. And that has been demonstrated. And that is why we continue to draw all these candidates. Some of them come from traditional PAM households. Some of them come from very strong Labour households. Some of them were just independent people who make a determination that Dr. Harris is the best person to lead the country, and I will give him my support. And I say thank you to all of them and their families for the outstanding support given to them as they move to serve at a higher level.
Dr. Harris, we have said a lot. I mean, I'm looking at the clock, not realizing that we're running down so much of time. And I suppose there's some people who have their phones in their hands. So I would give them a chance. We have a half an hour where we can entertain some telephone conversation. And please, because we are out of time, we want to make sure that those of you who are calling in, make sure your calls are straight to the point, the questions are straight to the point, and so that we can entertain as much people as possible, because that is what the program is all about. It's about the information that we can give, and we want to hear from you, your contribution, to see how we can do better. The numbers that you can call are 466-0989, 662-0989, or 762-0989. I was going to allow people to WhatsApp or text in messages, but because we are so much out of time, it would be a little tedious to do so. But if you really want to, we have a caller already online. Let's take this first call. Caller, you are live on The Truth. Can I hear yours?
Yes, good night to you, Ms. Atherton, and good night to you, Mr. Prime Minister. Yes, my question, like you say, straight to the point. Mm-hmm. We people, with the leaders of different and candidates from PAM and Labour and CCM criticizing the peace, then about it and all the stuff and the PAP program. But what I think we need to go back to, Mr. Prime Minister, is to tell people about the $46 million that was given to Christophe Harbour and the $155 million that was supposed to be down to Low Valley that was given to Mr. Blackman to develop Low Valley Golf Course, and the $100 million for Kittishon Hill. I think there was a Trinidad person who was in charge of that project. These were not Kittishon. And when you look at, and also the $40 million that was given to Bank of Antigua to bail out Bank of Antigua. And when you look at all these money put together, you're talking over $300 plus million. And these are not Kittishons that these money was given to. And nobody's talking about that. That seems to me that was fine. But when you give money to Kittishons who are going to spend the money right back here, and in some of these same people who are criticizing businesses, that seems to be wrong. But you give money to foreigners, and that is okay. Good night, and I'll continue to listen to the program.
Thank you for your contribution. We'll take another call. We have another caller online. Let's take this call. Caller, you're live on The Truth. What is yours?
Good night to you and the Prime Minister. Mr. Prime Minister, one of the hallmarks of a successful leader and a thriving country is the ability to galvanize everybody with a unified vision and purpose. But that we are now more divided than at any time in our history, right? And one would say that it's a result of the leadership we have. You divided the great SKNLP. You divided even the executive of your party, the initial executive. You divided the Unity Party and now the country. And that is a terrible legacy. And another legacy is the dependency ethos that have developed under your watch. When over a quarter of the working population is on some kind of government program, that is the wrong direction and shows a failure of the government to generate growth and attract investment.
Caller, can I just say something? We are speaking the truth. And because we're doing the truth, we expect to hear the truth, not propaganda. We're not going to go down that road. So let us stick with the truth.
Let the Prime Minister answer.
Yeah.
Let the Prime Minister. There's just one other thing.
Yeah.
Right? I noticed all the other parties at least seem to have embraced the good governance agenda, realizing that we are not there yet. The Prime Minister seems to feel that we are, okay? But this has been the most, it's certainly not a transparent and open administration. So many investigations have gone and no report.
Again, caller, we are talking the truth. No. I am the host of the... Listen, no, we're not going to do this. I'm the host of the program, and the Prime Minister is here to answer questions. But I said, we are speaking. We're not going to do that. We're not doing that propaganda anymore. This is not the programs that you can call in and say things that are not true. Then bring the facts. We don't have that, so let's take another caller. Sorry, I don't want to disrespect you in any way, but let us go on. We need to hear people who have genuine questions and people who really want the truth. You have already come to your conclusion, so I suppose the truth doesn't bother you or matters to you in any which way, shape or form. Do we have another caller? Let's take that call. We have to apologize to that caller, but caller, you're on the truth.
Good night, Sandro.
Hi, good night.
This is time for propaganda business, you know. The tactics is to come eat up time. The people want to ask the Prime Minister questions.
Yeah.
He wastes time.
Yes, so not do
We
that.
ain't got no time for that. Like up 4th Street where the propaganda people them be. Mr. Prime Minister, you're doing a very good job, sir. And the people of this country, especially the young people, will watch you back there. Because your policies is right. You love people. You look after people. And you ain't greedy like some of them. Have a good night, Sanjo.
Thank you.
And you don't let none of them around here bother you.
No.
When the election, we will watch you back there. We need a leader, not jokers. We need a leader. Have a good night, Mr. Pierre.
Thank you for your contribution. We have another call.
You.
There are no other calls. Mr. Prime Minister, would you take...
to thank Jam Down for really his call and his commendation and his public support. Jam Down, I think, is a man with a free mind and speak frankly, openly, and it really has been a source of encouragement to me. He's one of those formerly strong PAM supporters who understand the essence of time and that by and large the PAM leadership cannot serve the purposes of the future. So I want to commend him. Ira McMahon is a special case, a man who is aggrieved and bitter. Ira McMahon had a stint at the CFBC technical wing, and it had to be brought to an end. In fact, it was the former Minister of Education, one of them, Sam Kanda, who had to deal with the complaints that were coming to the cabinet about the lack of performance of Mr. McMahon as head of the technical wing of the college. He had found a job in the private sector, and it was basically in conflict with his duty to perform. And as a consequence, a number of students could not do their City and Guild exams. And so when I hear Ira, I see Ira continues with that vendetta. While I was part of the cabinet, it was not my decision really to have asked him. He was written to formally to bring this sad state of affairs. So when you hear Ira calling in and making statements, he's coming with a deep-seated vendetta and grievance. And it's unfortunate because I would think in the advanced stage of his life, he could be more nimble in thought and in reflection and want to see a good country. He talked, for example, about good governance. Then let's move beyond his personal view and look at the facts. Governance is good here. Law and order is strong. The parliament is functioning and has functioned over the life of this government. These are critical indicators. People have access to justice. There is a report called the World Justice Project Rule of Law Index. St. Kitts and Nevis has been among the top performers. And good governance and law and order and accountability. In the context of that reality, how does Mr. McMahon call with any sense of rationality to speak about an absence of good governance here when the rights of our people are preserved? That is why so many people are coming and they don't want to go. Not only is the economy strong, but there is freedom. And so I won't say more than to ask Ira to go back again to the World Justice Project Rule of Law Index, and we feel happy that your country has ranked every year in among the top of the class and good governance and democracy. The caller made the interesting point that while people are wanting to condemn some initiatives that are intended to help our ordinary people, they stood silently when $46 million went over to the peninsula, and there has been very little to show in terms of the success in the progress of that particular project. What about the failed project at La Valley that the Douglas spent millions of dollars on? And what about all the other investments that they made, including the giveaway of the land at the airport to Alan Stanford, who basically now is in prison still, the taking away of the playfield of the people of Connery on the promise that Mr. Stanford would be able to do something better and grander. Nothing had come true in relation to those. So there is somewhat a sense of hypocrisy when people are belabeling the cost of this and can they be sustained, when the history is that so much was wasted by the Douglas administration while many of them were too coward to speak about it. This is what we are doing, our investments in our people, investments in the quality of life. We are happy that we have been able to produce the resources to assist our people. And we feel, as I said, happy about it. We will make the necessary reforms because we are aware that every program over time ought to be reviewed with a better understanding of its strength, of its purpose, its mission, and changes can be made for its improvement. And we are committed to that. Because we are committed, we move from PEP to STEP program and reduce the numbers and put more people to work in the country.
Okay, we go back to the lines again and take another call. Caller, you're live on The Truth. What is your truth?
Yes, Sam. Good night again, Sandro.
Hi.
I want to thank the Honorable Prime Minister for the Christina Monument. I'm right down here by it now, watching it, man, it looks so nice. So, Mr. PM, this country don't see it. In December, we're gonna get a ceremony down there in August.
Yeah. Yes, you will have a ceremony there. We will have the unveiling.
Hopefully.
Yes, hopefully.
Yeah, I would like you to update the country on this because remember, it's almost 300 years we're waiting for this. And thank God Tim Harris come and bring a new day. Bring back the light to Christina in the minds of a lot of people who perish. Thank God, sir. Have a good night. And you can sleep on because you're doing good things over this country. No vagabonds coming back here. Have a good night.
Thank you for your contribution. We have another caller. We don't have another caller. Dr. Harris, it is sad when people can be blinded by bitterness we are seeing a country that is progressing. Like we said, we're not perfect. There are lots of things that we have to change. There are lots of amendments that we have to do. But at the end of the day, when we make comparisons, because it's relative, we can relate to what other countries are doing. We have been, like I said, we have proven that we have basically withstood the test of time. We would have, for you as a government, you've been tested and tried. You talk about a pandemic of that magnitude. The whole world was in crisis, and St. Kitts and Nevis, we stood tall. People recognize us not just on a local level or regional level, but on an international level. We stood out because of the fact that we had leadership that we can trust. And that is one of the reasons why you're looking at the situation that we're going into an election. And we want to make sure that we are not listening to propaganda. Because you hear that, where people can come out and sound very competent, say the same thing every time, the same story every time. What is good governance? You're going to ask the question. Because people think that good governance is something that that is special and different. It is one thing that you should do that would make it look like you are transparent or you are accountable or that one thing that Mr. McMahon sticks to. He always talk about that system of good governance. I always believe that there should be a system under which government should be controlled, where that when one party comes out, the other one has to basically operate on the same. But that would pose a problem, because suppose the system that they were operating failed, that you would have to change system as you go along, and that's what happens. As you go along, you would have to change systems.
And that has happened. But here all the fundamentals of good governance exist.
We have another caller.
Yes.
Sorry to cut you off, but let's go to the lines and take this call. Caller, you're live on The Truth. What is yours?
Good night, Sanjo, and good night, Mr. Prime Minister.
Good night.
You are doing a
Radical
wonderful
culture.
job. There is no one to replace you, and the whole world can see what you have done, what you are doing to this country, and they can see what you have done. And please keep it up. You have the eyes of all of us who have a clear conscience and a clean heart. But Mr. Prime Minister, I want to give you a little advice, please. Please, no one of us can be like Jesus. Christ said, vengeance is his. But there are certain persons, like Ira McMahon, and a lady does go around every day on the radio with your name, accusing you of wrong things with money. And I need you to put a stop into that. Please put a stop into that. That is the reason why we have Mr. Limo House and South East Square Street. It is time for people to respect people in authority and stop accusing people of things that the person are innocent of. Please, Mr. Prime Minister, you are doing a great job. Keep it up. And PLP will win the election, because you are the best person and PLP team to run this country. Have a good night.
Thank you for your contribution, Mr. Prime Minister.
Sandra, I like your style. Don't let anybody come on the radio and bully you. Cut them off.
No, we don't want to cut off anybody, but the program is called The Truth, and the truth must be told. We can't be bothered anymore with the propaganda. People have to hear the other side of the story and have to understand that, people would want to make things look a certain way because they want to benefit. And it's all about benefiting. We see this where people are bitter because they are not benefiting like they used to benefit. And so they come on with their different sides of the story. And it is very sad. It's not about the whole country. It's about individuals. And that is one of the reasons why I really appreciated Unity concept, because it was a party that brought everybody together, where it doesn't matter what was your political persuasion. We have people from Labour there, CCM there, PAM there, and that was one of the good things about the unity concept. But it's no longer, but we see that now in PLP, where PLP welcomes all, because PLP is a party that is mixed with Labour people, PAM people, because it's a new party and they didn't bring their own people. So it was people who were not satisfied with what they were getting with the party that they were at, and they decided to follow PLP because they saw that PLP is a party that embraces everyone, and that is enough for PLP. Let's talk about other situations that we see happening right now in the country.
Just very quickly to finish the point and the good governance, because it is a word of convenience for some, because it's so elastic. You could almost give it any meaning you want. Good governance, in a sense, though, is about government working for the people in the context of a preordained, well-established framework. What is the framework under which we administer government? Government is administered in the Caribbean. Constitutional. Democracy is what we have. Each member state has a constitution, which is the supreme law of the land. And no government and nobody can do anything which is inconsistent with the constitution. Because once it is proven that way, the act fall, it becomes null, void, of no effect. So we have a strong constitution that becomes the basis, the anchor, if you will, for the rule of law in the country. And that is why, for example, we have seen persons taking government to court, winning against the government, and the government being obliged to pay. We have had persons, for example, take to former ministers, candidates for number 4, Lindsey Grant and John L. Powell, to court on issues of breach of trust, misappropriation, thereabout, and the court made judgments against them. So law and order is real in St. Kitts and Nevis, and no one really is above the law. So these are important aspects. So the Constitution is there. We have the Public Accounts Committee, which is mandated, headed by the leader of the opposition. If he's too lazy to do his work, then perhaps next time we'll have a new leader of the opposition. We have a director of audit. We have a free press. All these are elements of the good governance agenda. You have the Prime Minister on radio. You have the Prime Minister holding his press conference. You have working for you. You have such a wide variety of government programs where persons in leadership are being held accountable. There is no absence of good governance in St. Kitts and Nevis. And that is why the independent people have always rated us highly on the good governance agenda, much to the dismay of those who are perpetuating the untruth.
We have someone else online. Let's take this call. Caller, you're live on your... We have lost that caller. And we have another caller there. Caller, you're live on The Truth. Let me hear your truth.
Sanja.
Hello?
Good night, Sanja. Good night.
Hi.
Good night, Mr. Politics.
And good night to the Honorable Prime Minister. Good night. Now, Mr. Prime Minister, leadership really matters. And you're proving with the PLP party, and you know where this country going with you, and the people them where they're going with you. Now, you is the youngest party in the race from 2015 because of whatever. You went into election with the People's Action Movement and the CCM, and the election has won. And the election won, especially down here in St. Kitts, because of you. Because of your leadership and your creativeness, going this different constituency and trying to win vote to different candidates in the unity concept. And now you also about the 2015 term and went into 2020. And you all win election and you do the same thing. And I believe that your party, the PLP, has improved and merging towards whatever you're doing to the people of this country. The people feel that you're a promising leader and a good leader, and the young men and women of the Federation, they don't have no other choice to elect you back into cabinet, you and your team, you and your young man, young, brilliant young guys, you pick. No more corrupt lawyer, no more corrupt doctors, and all these things are going to be around you. So you'll get to function your cabinet and your government very good.
Thank
you all have a wonderful night. May God bless the consideration of St. Kitts Nevis.
Thank you,
Mr. Prime Minister, you be strong.
Thank you.
Me, politics, culture, and jam down be very strong. Very strong.
Thank you for your contribution, Mr. Politics. Mr. Prime Minister, I'm going to ask you a question because we see, we spoke about and we listened to your colleagues talking about you being the best Prime Minister. Unity was the party that everybody looked forward to. It breaks my heart when I hear people say, I voted for Unity. I love the concept of Unity. I don't even know what to do now because I just understood we were just getting into a position where the people were being taken into consideration. What happened to that construct?
Well, I say unity lives in the heart of the people, and I believe in it, and I am dedicated to it, and that is why I have built over the last few years what has been considered the most dynamic, inclusive, broad-based party that can welcome all. And this is critically important and a mark of distinction between the People's Labour Party and those older parties which come with their tribal moorings.
Wow.
I is a Pam, they will say, I am a comrade, which means the home is only for those.
Yeah.
And that is why we are hearing them belatedly saying to people, come home. But the home had already been destroyed by the leaders, as if it was tornadoed. And so we have said to the people, the leadership, your leadership, by betraying your trust, have left you. They did that without consulting you. There were no party convention before they exited. And they sought to do this power grab, the greed, selfish agenda of the leader of PAM and the leader of CCM brought us into a premature general elections because one could not blackmail me. And I would say to the people, we move forward to a secure future when we vote for each of the 8 candidates of the People's Labour Party. We will consecrate unity, what is good about it. In fact, our team, as I said before, is diversified. We have persons who come from PAM backgrounds, who come from Labour backgrounds, persons who are non-aligned, just committed to service. That is unity at work there. We are being supported even in these campaigns by hundreds of former Douglas Labour people and hundreds of former PAM people who are saying, we need you to continue to lead our country to the stronger and safer future. You have done such an excellent job during COVID. Now is not the time to look backwards. Now is the time to deal with the reality that the global environment is threatening and that we need a strong leader with a strong team. I have been able to put together, the executive of the People's Labour Party, a team which is energetic, youthful, experienced, deeply committed to the agenda of national service, and have open arms, ready to welcome all in the task of nation building. So I would say, do not lose hope. We can still revisit the agenda of unity. We will do it in the PLP because we are the only party inviting all. So again, we invite all of you interested in the grand agenda of keeping St. Kitts and Nevis safe and secure, the grand agenda of a prosperous St. Kitts and Nevis, to come give your vote to the People's Labour Party, and I promise you, you shall not regret it.
We have another call online. Let's take this call because we're winding down. Caller, you are live on The Truth. Hello? I think we would have lost that caller. Let's take this other call. Caller, you're live on The Truth.
Yes, one more question. I've heard tips of the Prime Minister in 2015 passionately advocating that the Prime Minister should have the support of the majority of members in Parliament. How does he square that with what obtains now? Doesn't it feel some kind of way that what...
No, not at all. No, not at all, Ira, because the principle, Ira, outlined that when the Prime Minister loses the trust, he must go back to the people, and that is what I have done. I have gone back to the people within the constitutional time granted to the Prime Minister to do so. And that is the difference. In the case before me, we waited 26 months. In my case, within 90 days, we have gone back to the people. That is a marked difference which we need not debate. The fundamental principle, but we have been functioning.
You have not been functioning.
But we have been functioning. I don't know what is your concept of a caretaker, but a government is a government, Ira. A government is a government, and this government operates. The most fundamental requirement of any government, caretaker or not, a cabinet could be any number. That is where you're wrong. A cabinet, but that is democracy, because that's the Westminster model. In England, you have a government side with over 300 plus MPs. How many of them are in government? About maybe 10, 15. Out of 300. So that is democracy. I am not going to get into this tit for tat. This is not
Mr. Prime Minister, sir. Let me tell you, this is not. If you want to challenge the Prime Minister, there are other forums that you can do so. I beg, please, not on this forum. If you want to talk to the Prime Minister, he has press conferences. There are other means. You could say it on Voices. But right now we are running out of time, and there are other people who have to ask questions. I don't want to be disrespectful, but please do understand that we cannot entertain this because we are running out of time. Let's take another call. We don't have any other callers. We have one more caller. Let's give this last caller a chance to say his truth.
Good night.
Hi, good night.
That's how the guy there behaving, you know. That's how he operates.
That's okay, but we don't...
That's an endeavor in this country. He don't care.
Well,
you understand?
Jam down.
You hear the nonsense he want to come to portray to the country and the world? Come on, boy. You have done this country an injustice. Work, take crown money and work for it. And look where you're trying to come and pain over young people. So you don't deny them of the education. Can you strike out them people one time?
No.
Don't get through with the agenda. Let's go 4th Street.
No,
the nonsense up there talking.
Thank you.
Timothy run this country.
Yeah.
This is the only leader bring success to the hearts of young people in the country. When I walk through Elevin McKnight, I hear the young people them talk. They give Sean them a mandate and they walk away from them. You know what half of them telling me down in the market today? They still on them 3 years. One of them said he went to the bank. He don't even sure he gonna compare the bank. If them vagabonds there manage to go in the because people know the Labour Party coming in turning where people are ringing back there.
Thank you.
Timothy has make a mark here. He could have gone in there and turned well after them. It's all what they're saying and doing. Trying to sabotage the government and still working in government. He could have turned with them. He could turn with them. It's 28 man Douglas turned in 95 at the port. I was a victim of that. Jabo, Dolphin of Market Street, and many others from around the country. We have seen it. And this guy come with something new to the country. We ain't going to leave him. This country ain't going against Timothy. We have seen what he's done, and we know what he's doing. The country is moving straight ahead, and we ain't going to leave him. Have a good night again, Sandro.
Thank you.
And have a good night, Mr. PM. God bless you.
Thank you. God bless you.
Everywhere he go, he was doing good. He like the mighty healer. He bring the letter, to this country, and we're going to jam it on them. We're going to jam it on them the 5th of August. Have a good night.
Thank you for your contribution, Mr. Prime Minister. I mean, we have closed the line, sorry, because we are basically out of time. I'm going to give you a chance. You know what we're going to do? This Truth, the program The Truth, is going to be a program that because people need to hear you. There's a lot of information that we are not privy to, and people can only make informed decision with information. And so we are definitely going to make next Wednesday, we're going to have The Truth again, and you would be here. I ask. And because we have not even started the program yet, and there's so many other information to come out. So we're getting ready to wind down. Let's talk about the fact that what advice you give to voters who are getting ready to vote in this election. It is one of the most important elections of one's lifetime. It's the future of our children. That is what is a change in what you have brought. If we are going back to a situation that we don't want to go. We had crimes, parents are losing their sons and their daughters. We were in the hands of the IMF. I mean, we cannot go back. So what advice are you going to give? What hope can you give to the people who are going to vote in this election? Well,
we have always delivered a message of hope, and the message of hope has been wrapped around our theme of a secure future for the people of St. Kitts and Nevis. How do we deliver a secure future? Protecting our people from harm. That is critical. That is the most fundamental mission of the state, sometimes seen in more the physical aspect of security, protecting people from being killed in the streets and all those lawlessness in the country and so on. We have shown that we can do that. In fact, I have been the Minister of National Security for the last 7 years and oversaw the most successful reduction in crime in our country, where we have the lowest level of homicides gang-related in the country in over 25 years or for a very extended period. And most importantly, we have one of the best crime detection rate in our country for a very long period of time. So in terms of law and order, security and safety, we have delivered and we have a track record in terms of that security. The other programs by which we protect the people are the very programs that neither PAM nor Labour, working together, are committed to. The PAP program is critical at this time as people are reorienting their lives, dealing with the hardships, not of their own making, but as a consequence of a very hostile external environment that brought us COVID-19, that dislocated them, their economy, their lives, their livelihoods. And as a consequence, the government sees this continuing in an improved way as a necessary support to vulnerable groups. Same, the peace program will be reformed, made much better. And critically important, even as it is a model of a best case being utilized by the UK and others being studied and the USA as models of how we can deal with crime that basically, if we don't keep it on the track, would destroy our societies. Haiti is a failed state in part because it has not been able to deal with the gang-related violence, among other things. And so we protect our people by keeping them safe. We protect our people similarly to the Peace Initiative, to the PAP program, and a range of other social safety net. When we speak about the National Insurance Program, which we promise we will have implemented in 12 months' time, that is evidence of protecting the people so that when you are sick, when illnesses, serious and not so serious, catch up with you, the absence of money in your pocket should not prevent you from getting health care and even going abroad for necessary treatment. The National Insurance Program will solve this problem of having to get a sheet and somebody give you $20 and $30, and when you add up, it's not even enough to help you to do the essentials. We are protecting the people. When we speak about the pensioners that have been neglected by the Douglas administration from 2007, and even make a mockery when in 2012 they passed the act and did not bring it into being, we have said that we are going back to May 2012 and bring them on the pensionable parole of the government, so to speak, and they will be pensionable for the rest of their life. What a wonderful transformation. That is, we are saying that labor, your work, has value, and the contribution of every employee must be recognized, especially when it's long and meritorious. Some of those people work for government over 30, 25 years, 40 years, and they went home with not 1 cent, not $1 of pension. And we say it's wrong, and we are correcting it. When we say that we are going to regularize and make permanent all step workers, we are protecting our people and we are investing in them. But more than that, we will create jobs. Which government had the record of creating the most jobs in St. Kitts and Nevis? The Harris-led administration. Over 31,000 persons registered as contributors to the Social Security Scheme, the highest in the history of the scheme, going back to 1979 and so on. So those are about creating jobs. How do we do it? We will have the most expansive public capital project in the history of St. Kitts and Nevis. We spoke about the massive housing program we will get started so that every person, every adult wanting to have a home and able to pay for it will be able to achieve it. And we will have different housing solutions. So some of the models will allow you, if you want the government to assist you just to the foundation, and then you get your blocks and your friends and free labor, and you take it to finish, and you get the most affordable house that you are interested in, we will support that initiative. We will support those by the NHC. We will support some one bedroom for those who want that. And so there will be a wide array, and we will give support to local people, contractors who want to buy land and get involved into housing construction. Not only large contractors like Dee and Daniel, but those who want to build 6 homes. Yeah. We will provide them the land at affordable prices. We are able to do that because we went and we began to pay millions of dollars redeeming the land that Douglas had tied up with National Bank under the land for debt swap. You see how economic activity will then begin to bear fruit in the new term of the Harris-led administration. So we will protect the people. We will create jobs. We are looking at expansion in tourism. We are looking at new industries. We're getting involved in a solar plant, which will be the largest one in the Caribbean. We are a leader. We are going to get involved in desalination plants. Again, critically important. We already advanced arrangement with the UAE, where they will provide support for the government in this regard. And we also started serious discussion, advanced them with private sector operators, because water is essential to life. And it will be the Harris-led administration in the next term that will bring a permanent resolution to the water problems that we are experiencing in Half Moon, in Frigate Bay, in Keon, in Canada, in Lodge, in St. Paul's and Sadler's. We will resolve it throughout the country once and for all as a major investment. The truth is, in every area you can think of, alternative energy, the Harris-led administration is already doing significant work on that. The solar farm will be the largest and the best. The water problem, we already have contract with BEAD to do well drilling, and we have arrangements now with government and are advancing with private sector parties to solve that. The road program, we have said that in the next year, we will pave and resurface some 70 roads in housing projects. And we will significantly tackle the problem of the road from Bastille outskirts into St. Peter's, and some other critical areas of the country will be addressed. That will lead to greater efficiency in travel, in movement, in convenience. So our public sector program will be aggressive, but we also are going to engage private sector. In the housing program, in the hotels, we are already advanced in having an inclusive hotel in the country, which will add to our tourism traffic and the sustainability of our tourism product. So there is significant work that will be done that will create jobs. So securing the people, creating jobs, growing the economy through all of these diversified investment that we have already started and will be intensified in the next term. So the future then, the secure future, can be protected by a vote for the People's Labour Party. And only the People's Labour Party has a leader that has been tried, tested by one of the worst pandemic ever known to mankind in the last 100 years. And we came out as a country, or we are coming out, standing strong and firm. If it were any other leader, we would have had more deaths, more carnage, and we would have had a weakened economy because of the reckless approach to governance and spending that had taken place before us that led us into the clutches of the IMF. So we are committed to the future. We love the people of St. Kitts and Nevis, and I invite every voting person to vote for the People's Labour Party candidate. Thank you very much for being a part of the program, and thank you for your solidarity and support.
Thank you. There you had it. That's your truth. That is the truth that people want to hear. I hope that parents would be able to tell their children when they ask, Mommy, Daddy, why didn't you vote for PLP? That you would have an understanding of why and the effects that it would have on your children. And I really would like to hear their truth. My name is Sandra Quilliatis, and it was a pleasure hosting this program. I hope that you would stay tuned to Win FM 98.9 and tune in next Wednesday when we would have this same program. The Prime Minister is going to come back because there's so many other areas that we have not touched and we have gone over time, and we look forward to doing this again next week. Mr. Prime Minister, thank you for coming, and I do hope that you would make sure that your truth is not only be told, but would be realized that this is the way that people need to go. The People's Labour Party is the true party for St. Kitts and Nevis. Thank you for listening, and thank you for being a part of this program. Like I said, we look forward to doing this again next week, Wednesday.
Bless you.
Same to you.